Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about some things that I experienced as a child, and I started thinking about them because I'm watching TV and I'm going, what the hell is going on in our country? Look at those people. How have we become what we have become? So I started reflecting back and I'm going, well, maybe that's how we became what we have become. So the purpose of this virtual campfire, the purpose of Wingman Nation, number one is to be honest. It's to share honest thoughts and feelings and to listen to yours. And it's not to be right. It's number one is to be honest. Number two is to try to share helpful information that will maybe soak in with some people, maybe resonate, that will help you avoid making bad decisions, or at least be humble enough to recognize some of the bad decisions that you've already made. And number three, I guess, is to maybe change directions, change your trajectory moving forward. So again, I watch the TV news and I just shake my head. Do you ever shake your head when you watch the news and go, what in the world? There seems to be two different camps of people. There's the Democrats and the Republicans. And if you're in one camp, you got to hate the other one. And it doesn't matter which camp you're in. How did we get to where we are? How did we get to a society that believes in the less work you do, look for a way to do things easy and get as much as you can. Get all the cheese you can if you're a rat by doing nothing. And I think that work, that struggles might be the answer, part of the answer to making our country better, our human beings better. Let me explain. When I was a little boy, I don't know, probably 6 years old, 7, maybe 8 years old, and we would come home from church on Sundays, my parents would always take a nap, right? But I didn't know they were taking a nap. And every time Dad got finished with them taking a nap, he would take me to Gibson's, the sporting goods store, and he'd give me a quarter to buy a fishing lure. And so, but I didn't just sit there and wait till they got through with their nap. I had to earn it. I didn't like it, but I wanted that fishing lure. And so I got the bucket. We had the bucket that laundry detergent came in. Go out in the front yard, and they had these beautiful pink flowers. It seemed like jillions of them, but they were all weeds. And they seemed to grow overnight and just appear. So on Sundays, when Dad and Mom would take their nap, I would be out picking weeds. And Dad would say, if you fill that bucket with weeds, I'll take you to Gibson's and you can buy that fishing lure you want. So I'd go out there. Well, it didn't take me very long to go, you know what, those weeds, if you pick a few of them and you fluff them up and you make them look like you fill the bucket, maybe you can just fluff them up. You don't have to pick as many, and Dad will not see that you fluffed them up. He'll still take you to Gibson's. You'll still get the fishing lure, and you didn't have to work very hard. It didn't take a genius to figure that system out. But my mean old dad, when he came back out from taking his nap, he went up to the bucket and went, he made this many weeds look like about this many weeds. He said, fill the bucket and I'll take you to Gibson's. I never got an allowance as a little boy. Never did. I could always earn money, and it was always my mean old father made me cut the grass or pick up the big dirty in the backyard or pick the weeds up when they were taking a nap. I had to do something for my money, and I hated it. I'd ask my mom, I'd say, Mom, when Dad was gone at work, I'd say, well, how come, my friends get an allowance? How come I can't get an allowance? And she's like, that's the way your daddy wants it. My mother would have acquiesced and just given me pretty much anything. She would have. They were very, very different people. But my father made me work for it. When my parents would tell me to clean the room, I didn't clean the room. I'd take my shoes and throw them under the bed and stick my dirty clothes in the drawer. And, if I cleaned the room, I could go and get ice cream. I didn't clean the room. I took the easy road. Why? Because it worked. Until they opened the door and said, what's all these dirty clothes and the underwear in there for? They held me, at least my father held me to some standard. Today, I wonder how many people have to work for what they get. Did you have to work for what you got as a child, or did you just get it given to you? You know, a lot of my friends, they did. They got an allowance, 25, 50 cents a week. When times got good, they got $1 a week for just breathing, just existing, and not getting thrown in the detention home. That never happened for me. And I think I was always jealous of those people that didn't have to do anything, yet they still got rewarded by their parents. But as I look back, I'm going, you know what? Maybe this sense of entitlement. Here, I love you so much, here's your allowance. I love you so much, here's your computer. I love you so much, son, here you go. They didn't have to earn it. All they got to do is exist. Don't get thrown in jail. Don't do something, hideous. Don't embarrass the family, and you're going to get stuff. Then they get given clothes and cars, a free education. We have taught people, whether we intended to teach them or not, culturally as a society. I believe that most of us, we love our kids. We do want the best for them. But the best for them, isn't it making them work for something? If they feel they're entitled, no matter what they do, they're entitled to feel good. They're entitled to that iPad. They're entitled to whatever it happens to be without having to produce for it. What happens when you don't do that? What happens to a country when you don't make people work for things? When people can come in from across the border and they work really hard to get here, but all of a sudden they got here and here's all your stuff for just existing and welcome. What happens? People avoid work, it seems like, at all costs. They avoid being uncomfortable. I look at it and it's hard. Making people work is hard because they're going to hate you for it. Like I didn't like my daddy when they were taking their nap, making me pick those weeds, and then he figured out my trick to mash them down. I think that most people today have figured out how to pick that bucket of weeds, whatever it is in life, using that metaphor, and they have gotten by not having anybody push it down. We have allowed our kids, our partners, maybe our employees, maybe our politicians, too much latitude. We have allowed people to get away with so much for so long they think they can get away with anything and never accept responsibility. When I had to pick the weeds in the front yard in order to go and get my fishing lure at Gibson's and earn my 25 cents, I had to earn it. If my dad wasn't so mean, if he wasn't so strict, maybe I wouldn't be the man I am today. But today I feel that there is value in work. Do you see that? Is there any value in teaching kids how to work, even if they're going to hate you for the time being? An entitlement. Are we entitled to, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What does that mean? Is it the pursuit of pleasure? I've mentioned this in the past. I think most of us think we need to pursue pleasure, and there should be no price to pay for it. We go and get an education. I've got grandkids that are going to colleges and universities, and every one of them has a student loan, every single one of them, and they don't know what they're going to do when they get out of school. That student loan was just given to them. They're going to end up paying for it. Daddy's going to come back and push those weeds down in the bucket. Daddy, the government's going to come back and go, you owe us that money. But then again, maybe not. Maybe Daddy at the top is going to go, you know what? You don't have to pay that back either. We're going to force your employer to hire you even though you're not qualified, just to give you a badge, a title. You're entitled to make a lot of money. What happened to earning it? So when I look at the news, I try to think about it. Yeah, I shake my head and say, how can this happen? And I know freak things happen. I know they do. But aren't we responsible for cultivating this crop of entitled, ungrateful, unproductive, lying, manipulative, grown-up children in adult bodies? Aren't we responsible for that, at least partly? And guess what? Those lying, ungrateful, manipulative adults they've learned nothing else. They've learned to get what they got. Their fancy house, their big RV, their free education. They learned it. So guess what they're teaching their kids? Because they love them so very much. I'm not sure if any of this makes any sense today. I'm not talking about RVs. I'm talking about life in general. And I just believe that this is a message that some people ought to consider. Just think about. When you were growing up, who was the disciplinarian in your family, if you had a mom and dad? Or who was the person that was really pretty tough on you, that held you to a pretty high standard, that you didn't like at the time? You respected them maybe. Maybe you were a little bit fearful of them. That's the way I felt about my dad. But you didn't like being pushed like that, held to that standard back at the time, because nobody else seemed to be. That you're so grateful for that discipline, the learning opportunity to learn what resilience is, and grit, and struggle, and the value of all of that. I'm not saying that life has to be nothing but a struggle, even though it pretty much is. Life needs to be, I believe, a fulfilling, satisfying life. What do I know? There's a lot of struggle, a lot of failure, punctuated by moments of pride and breakthrough and miraculous things that we can reflect on and be grateful for. That we can say, that came because I learned that stuff when I was a kid picking weeds in the front yard, and somebody held me to a higher standard. Does any of this make sense? It may not. I hope that if this resonated with you, you will drop a comment below. Let me know who maybe was an influence on your life, that at the time you thought they were just being a hard ass, like I thought my daddy was. But in reality, as you grew up, you learned a lot from that person that was the hard ass. I'd like to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining me around this virtual campfire. If you would, help the channel out by sharing this with others. Share it with people that you think might need to hear it. The truth is, I didn't want to hear, all growing up, hey, you know what? There is no easy road. Your daddy ain't going to buy you a car. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. I didn't want to hear that. I was always looking for the easy road. I was. Today, I see the easy road. It's offered to everybody. Why do you think so many people are in financial debt? Back in the day, during the Cowboys and Indians, back in the day when the Indians would smoke a peace pipe, weren't they smoking to get high? Getting high is what people want to do. They want to get high, they want to get drunk, they want to go take a nap. But none of that's really productive. It may feel good for the moment, but it's not really very productive. I think that when drugs are everywhere, that it dulls our senses. It makes us look for other ways to dull our senses. When loans are given out to young people that should know better, the people making those loans, they know what they're doing. They're entrapping us. They're entrapping those young people, and they don't even know it yet. So I'd like to hear from you. I encourage you, please think about starting to stand up and say, no, there is no more allowance. There is none. You will earn it. It's not an entitlement. It's an allowance. It's a privilege to have that iPhone. It's a privilege. And I'm taking your privilege away. I know they will hate you. Don't make them hate you, but do make them uncomfortable. It's when we're uncomfortable, when we seem to grow the most with our character, with our compassion for others, and hopefully in developing wisdom. When you're young, you don't have any wisdom because you don't know anything. The older you get, hopefully you're maybe not just like me, but you reflect back and you say, I can see that. Hopefully if you can see some things, if I touched a nerve today and you see how you can help somebody, that's how I think that you can be a good wingman or a good wing woman. Love people, encourage them to watch this video and to be open-minded. Discipline is a good thing, unless it's gone overboard, and it can be, some people can go too far. Life is a delicate balance, and I think that we are really out of balance with politics in this country, with our morals, with our condemnation of people that don't think exactly like us. I think we can do better. I hope we can do better, but it starts with us. As I've said many times, it starts with the person that brushes your teeth. Starts with the guy in the mirror, gal in the mirror. We have to be humble. We have to be honest. You have to think there's something more than just us and our feelings for the moment. All right, gone on too long today. Hope you got something out of this. Drop a comment down below. Let me know how you feel about today's video and maybe share it as I suggested with others. I'm Alan Warren. I'm the RV Wingman, reminding you, be safe, have fun, play nice, and don't leave your good manners at home. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.